Hi, it's Shah from Central Nervous Systems. This video accompanies a Acumatica tips and tricks blog post found on centralnervoussystems.com. Today's topic is vendor prepayments. I've been asked numerous times to explain the difference between creating a vendor prepayment in bills and adjustments rather than checks and payment forms. More specifically, a couple of weeks ago I was asked why there was no journal entry when entering a vendor prepayment in bills and adjustments form. So this led to the blog entry and this accompanying video. So let's get into it. Think of entering a vendor prepayment in bills and adjustments as entering a vendor prepayment request or a deposit request. I have a purchase order that requires 25% deposit or prepayment to be made prior to the vendor processing the order. To do this, I go into the Payables workspace, select Bills and Adjustments, then select on the New to create a new entry. In this case here, I want a prepayment. So I'm going to select prepayment for this prepayment request. Date is fine. And I'm going to put in a reference number. I'm putting in this reference number because I haven't received an actual invoice from the vendor, so I'm not going to put a vendor invoice number because I don't have one, so I'm going to put something like prepayment and the date. The description, I'm going to put in what it's for. Now I'm going to select my vendor. Great, so that takes care of those pieces. So I've got the basic information, just like an AP bill, but I need to specify at least one line. So I'm going to copy my description in here. In the unit of measure, I'm going to put in each just for completeness. Now this company has projects, so I need to make sure I put in a project. In this case, it's not applying to a project, and for this instance of Acumatica, the letter X denotes that there's no project. Notice that I've got an account here with the description COGS inventory that is defaulting from the vendor. We don't have to worry about that because the accounts listed on the detail line for a prepayment type are not used. So more on this shortly, but we don't have to worry about that piece there. Okay, going to click on save. Wonderful. Okay, so now I'm in the same spot that I would be with an AP bill. Come in here, take it off hold. Now, if there was a approval map set up, then this would go for approval and go through that workflow. So it's useful, especially for companies that have those approval maps, to make use of that with the prepayment or deposit as well. Right, so now I have released this document. So what does that mean? So now I have this document. What is this document actually doing? Well, for starters, there's no AP transaction. So it's not going to be found on the AP subledger. And there's no journal entry transaction. This is all because we've selected prepayment. Nothing happens until I apply payment to this document. So again, that's why the account information on here does not matter. There is no transaction that gets made from this document here. Okay, so now when to pay a prepayment, we go in by creating an accounts payable check, as you would for any other AP bill. So you can use the checks and payments to create an individual form check, or include it on a check run. Here, I'm not going to do a check run, so I'm going to go into checks and payments, again in the payables workspace, and click on new for a new check. Great, so same date, I'm going to use the same date on here. I'm going to go and select my vendor. Ease of use, I'm going to use cash. And I'm going to put in a description. Now I'm using cash because I don't want to go through the pain of printing out a check. So for illustration purposes only, I'm going to use cash. Okay, now to select my prepayment, by default it's going into bill. I need to ensure that I select prepayment, otherwise my prepayment that I just created will not show up. So there it is, 2196, and I've got my amounts here. I'm going to click on save at this point here. I'm going to go out and check my listings. Okay, so I've got my check here and it's on hold. Prepayment is not showing up on here. Okay, so just have the check here. So let me go back and now release this check. So what should happen when I release the check should go to closed, because now that's been applied to a document, which is the prepayment. But because I'm using a prepayment, I need that prepayment to show up to be applied against the future invoice. And at this point also, I want that amount to end up in my prepayment account on my GL. And so when I do this and release this, this is exactly what Acumatica does. So now I have my prepayment available, my journal entries and my AP transactions show up now and hit the books at this point. But I also have this prepayment to be applied to my invoice. Now, we went through a whole bunch of steps here. Wouldn't it be just easier just come in, create the check, just like I did this for the second portion here, don't apply it against anything and create a prepayment and we're done, and it will be sitting there waiting for it to be applied, easy peasy. So why go through all these steps? So there are advantages to the prepayment requests that I've shown you. When you use prepayment requests, you're going through the same workflow as an AP bill. So it makes it easier on the AP staff, especially if you've got different people that do the check runs or pay the checks, print out the checks versus entering in the AP transactions. So if you've got that kind of flow, then now that one transaction, well, this one needs to go here, this one needs to go here. Two, we talked about this before, it allows for the use of workflow for approvals. So now you don't have to have a purchaser create an email or have some sort of offline document that has to be processed through for approval and so on and so forth. So why not piggyback it with what we're doing with the AP bills, have them go through that process and say, okay, I need this to be entered and to be approved, whether it be finance, whether it be head of purchasing, whoever it may be, and follow that flow. Third is when we do a prepayment request, it can be included in check runs along with other AP bills rather than having to be done manually. So instead of having come in here and do prepayments manually, each one, you can include that on the check run. And by doing so, again, you're making the flow work with the flow that you currently have in your system. So hopefully that explains the differences on prepayments. So thanks for joining me. If you did not get to this video from the CNS Acumatica tips and tricks blog post, a link can be found in the video details section of this video. Until next time.